Hi, and welcome to today's episode of the Unstuck Edit with me, Gail Chisholm. How are you all today? I want to talk about beliefs today, and it's so funny when I was thinking about what am I going to chat about this week, and I've had a sticky note in my diary to remind me to update my business plan, just because it's a useful document to help you plan out what you want to do, because if you set a marker in the sand around what you'd like to achieve, it's easier to plan to get there. My business plan is actually, because it's not for the bank, it is actually a really useful document that starts with my why, actually. And as I was reading it, I realised that in that section of my why, I have actually chosen to list out a number of my beliefs which underpin the business that I work in, how I show up for people, the things that light me up, what I want to do. It's also, my beliefs can also be the light side, but they can also be the shadow side. And as I was reading through the list, I realised that I could feel it if I to talk about it on here today. I felt a little bit anxious isn't the right word, but maybe this is me showing up with courage, because I have probably recognised that how I show up on my social media, maybe on here to a certain extent, has been a slightly diluted version of myself. And I don't mean that like that. None of what I've said on here has been false, because that's not true. It's more around when it comes to the beliefs that underpin what I'm sharing. I have probably been quite deliberate by standing in the help and support space rather than maybe the bit before it. And maybe part of that's the storytelling around the why. Why do I want to do what I do? Why? I mean, I do talk a bit around, like with style and embodiment and things, like why are they useful tools to help you feel better about yourself? But our beliefs and values underpin how we show up in the world. And in fact, sometimes we don't necessarily realise how strong our values are, or things that values that we think we might have, but actually how strong they are. I've got a good example of that recently is I actually think I'm a very loyal person, and loyalty is something I give, and it's also something I probably hadn't really thought about, is that I kind of expect it back. Which is a bit strange, like, because sort of in a sense of I'm not on here going you follow me and you must stay with me forever. But I think it's also quite a good strong trait of a Leo, and I've got Leo as my sun sign and my rising sign, so it's quite strong. Leo the lion, I am very loyal, and I will be loyal to people who are in my friendship group, and I value that in others when they are loyal to something as well. And that doesn't even necessarily mean loyalty to me. I just value it as as up there in something that I think is important. And interestingly, when I did the desire map all those years ago, which was probably a catalyst for a lot of how I live my life today, one of the key things that it gets you thinking about, what are your core desired feelings? Now, I know in the UK we have a bit of a weird relationship with the word desire. But in terms of, I like to think about them as they are values or feelings, that this is, I know if I can tick the box on that I am living in alignment with the life that I want. And if I've got a decision to make, I can use them to help me make that decision. Now, my core desired feelings are bliss, passion, and lioness. And so when I think about this sort of loyalty side of things, or like passion for me is something like I enjoy passion in my life, but I really value it in others. Like when I see people who are passionate about what they do, how they show up in the world, whether I necessarily agree with whatever it is they're passionate about, I value it as an aspect to someone's personality. I think it's such a I suppose, a joy to behold, and it gets you thinking. When someone's so passionate about something they believe in, or something they do, or something they stand for, it's quite a magnetic. It can also be very polarizing, especially the world we live in just now, where people can be very passionate on different sides of the equation. And maybe the thing is whether or not we can see the other in ourselves, the ourself in the other. Anyway, small tangent. So I've realized recently that I am a loyal person, and what was the aha moment was how much I value it in others, and how it can make me feel when it doesn't feel that loyalty is reciprocated. And the work that I do and how I show up for myself is actually are tools to help me identify what I'm feeling and move through things faster. It isn't about bypassing or ignoring emotions, or, it's quite tricky to say that, you value loyalty in someone else, and then when you feel hurt when they're not demonstrating that to you, it's really quite human, really. But one of the things why I wanted to talk about beliefs here today is maybe to share, and why it sort of was feeling a little for me, is to share some of the beliefs that have got me to where I am, or why I show up the way I do. And that makes me feel a little bit vulnerable. Like I was saying at the beginning, I've probably been quite deliberate in staying more in the here's some stuff to help you, rather than necessarily talking about why do I do these things, and why have I been a bit avoidant of that? Because fear sits underneath that, right? It can feel, when you know what you believe in, it can feel quite scary to then put that out there. There's a risk of, or for me, it's a fear of judgment. Weirdly, sometimes from strangers, but more around people that I know. Why also do I then maybe, like if I think about my community, and I don't necessarily talk about my beliefs and values, because it is a fear of judgment from the people that are closest. That's probably a conditioning, and that's something that there's an opportunity for me to work through more. This feels like a first step in being more in that space. Yeah. Sorry, this feels a little bit umming and ahhing. And so you can see or hear the discomfort in my energy around this. And it's strange, because if you know me, and if you are someone I spend time with, I will quite happily share my beliefs and values. But yet, I think it's important to talk about some of these things. And, this is my journey, my personal view. And I love hearing other people's values. And I like to think of myself as open to hearing another perspective. I might not agree with you. But I like to think that I will always listen. Somebody's probably going to put in the comments, so that's bullshit, girl. Anyway, a lot of my beliefs have also been formed more so since, so let's think about beliefs for a second. Some of our beliefs and values are given to us when we are young, and if we think about our upbringing, our influences, and our parents, our peer groups, school, etc., whatever, however you might have spent your youth. So some of our values are acquired. And one of the things that I think I have spent time over since probably around 2017, when I first discovered the Desire Map, is really starting to challenge myself on some of those values and things that I thought I believed, as to whether they were mine. So did I genuinely believe that, or was that someone else's belief that that's just permeated into me over the years? And that's what we call like conditioning. So this sense of it's a conditioned response, it's not actually our own, it becomes automatic. And maybe this, if you're watching or listening this is your opportunity, I'm gently encouraging you to have an inquiry into what are your beliefs. And if you were to sit and write down your values and beliefs just now, are they yours, or where have they come from? And maybe take a step back and think about, like, what do your parents believe in? What do your friends believe in? And do they sit well for you? A really good way to is to start to tune into your body and to learn yes and no, because your body can often tell you, because our mind likes to overrule things. So our body is where our intuition can speak through. You can use things like the body compass, where if you stand and plant your feet on the ground, and you can say, show me yes, and your body will either start to move forward or it'll move backwards. For me, it moves forward. And then you can say, show me no, and it'll, if for me it's moving backwards. You can also use things like a pendulum, and that's where your intuition can speak through. And that might be a good way for you to test whether or not this is your belief. It needs to be yes, no questions, because obviously yes or no, forward or back. And that's a good way to start to inquire around, like, it might be loyalty is a good example. And you could say, or you can make a statement, you could stand and say, I am loyal. And does your body move forward or does it move back? Or it might be, I value loyalty in other people. Anyway, a slight digression, but I encourage you to look into your beliefs. Since 2017, I've started on a pathway figuring out who I am. I've always felt there's something blocking me or stopping me or playing small. That's why a lot of the things I have done since then, and a lot of the books I've read, the courses I've done, are to help myself. And then when it's something that I have found valuable, I want to share that with the world. And that's probably the bit where the conditioning comes in around how I've been able to show up and share things and invite people to come and work with me. And so when I was writing my business plan and starting with the why, because I think when you are self-employed or you're working on a project or you want to do something, when you start from your why, if you've never read Simon Sinek's stuff on this, go and have a read of it. It's easier when things get tough that you have your why written out, because that's what you come back to. That's the compass that helps you move forward. And in there, you might find some nuggets that will make you realise that you might have been going down a certain pathway to study something, and when you sit and think about what's your why, like, why do you want to be self-employed, you might then realise the manifestation of whatever it is you were thinking about might look a little different. My why in this, so this is about my business plan to do with, it's called Ceremonialist and Guide, and it's interesting because it's called Ceremonialist, and yet if you go to my website, I call myself a celebrant. And why have I done that? Because this is me being in my own way and making an assumption that celebrant is the word that is more known and less out there. But really, in my heart, I am a ceremonialist. I have such a passion for ceremony and ritual and its purpose in this world. I am a ceremonialist. And I was doing, I was in my Reiki graduate hearth space, and I said this, and Jade, who's the Reiki, I don't even think if I called her Reiki master, that's not the right word, but Jane she challenged me on it. And interestingly, I haven't changed it on my website. My business cards still say celebrant. And talking about this now that is me playing small and sitting not quite in my values and my belief system. And it's conformist. But yet I've always wanted to not conform. It's not being totally out there. My tagline for my boutique was called Uncommon Fashion, and uncommon is that's where I want to be, because I'm not just vanilla. And I don't mean in the other sense. I just mean generic. So, interesting example. I'm just laughing listening to like what talking about this. Like, if you've been following along for a while, my Unstuck edit stuff is me operating in alignment with my human design, whereby I have a subject and then I talk about it, because that's how I speak my truth. And so sometimes these start off in a certain way and meander into something else. But, that's me being human. It's not scripted. It's not AI. It's just me chit-chatting, yapping away. Hopefully something piques your interest. Please do share if there's anything that, is interesting to you, or what are you passionate about? What are your values and beliefs? Anyway, so my business plan starts off with that. I am taking an action whereby, Gail, stop fucking playing small or safe. In fact, I bought a keyring. I was in Shrewsbury the other weekend. I'll not tell you the keyring that my partner got printed off, because it's got language that I don't use. And I'm sure the woman who did it was, she raised an eyebrow. But mine I bought it's fuck playing it safe. And I was like, I need that. And so I'm minded of that for this. Because I think when you come from a place of your values and your beliefs and you lean into that, that will help you to not play it safe. And when I say you, I'm literally looking at myself here. So, Gail, fuck playing it safe. So, lived my life 2018, my then husband and I had a bit of a separation. We had a separation. I'd rented somewhere in my hometown, and then I got diagnosed with breast cancer, and then had a weird, my ex-husband was a total gem through all of this, and he is a wonderful human being. He's just not my human being. I'm not his human being. And that's life. So lots of shit has come my way. I have always been interested in the woo, and if you go and listen to the podcast I do with my soul sister, Sandra, it's called the No Taboo Woo Woo Show, where we talk about all things woo woo. And my woo woo tools. So ever since I can remember, whenever you got, the magazines you used to get, like More Magazine and things, always read the horoscopes, always read, was really interested in stuff like that. Whenever there was anything like, work out your ruling number, and then I probably lost not a little bit of touch with it. Always been tarot curious. Then I've done a tarot course. Anyhow, being diagnosed with breast cancer opened my eyes a lot to tools I was using. Now, what was quite interesting was I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2019, and it was in 2017 I did the desire map. That was when I really admitted to myself that I wasn't happy. And I realised I was settling a lot for things in life. And when I got a diagnosis of breast cancer, obviously there was a whole bunch of shit that came up around, oh my God, I'm going to die and blah, blah, blah. And you do go into, why is this happening to me? And this is where I'm going to talk about one of my beliefs. And it's something that is an affirmation I put in my journal every night. And I don't know if I've really talked about it. I'll talk in terms of publicly. I decided that I didn't want to stay in the place of, why is this happening to me? Because really, that's not what I believed. And I started asking the question, or believing, or statement that this had happened for me. And when I moved into the for me space rather than to me space, it shifted from feeling like a victim and not in control to a more empowered and curious and experimental space, and full of more opportunity. And that is something that, see, when I meet people with that mindset, I love it, because when so one of the beliefs around my business and the tools that I give. So I believe that if people, I'm just reading directly from my business plan here. I believe that if people change their mindset and responds to change or problems, that they can achieve different outcomes and own their own life. And that's very much moving from something happening to you to something happening for you. And when you think if this is happening for me, what steps can I take? There is an element around, and having breast cancer. And please, this is the reason why, one of the reasons why I'm always a little reluctant to come out and talk about this is because sometimes this can be misconstrued that I caused my breast cancer, and that is not what I'm saying at all. There was a perfect storm in my body and my biology that meant my body didn't deal with rogue cells. And those rogue, because that's what your immune system's for, right, is to destroy anything that's abnormal. And my immune system chose not to at this point in time. And it was quite an aggressive form of breast cancer. And I remember sitting, I remember, I can't lie, I was a bit in shock. But I always think about it as like, it was literally staring down the barrel of a gun. And if I hadn't gone to the doctors, I might not have been here. Right. And I'm like, I have been gifted. So if I think about this has happened for me, I have been gifted this opportunity. Like, I'm here. Life is precious. So what the fuck am I going to do with it? And it was a very big wake up call to be, I can sit and live my life in the same way as I have been, which was enjoyable. And I'm not sitting here going I was miserable or anything. It was the B+ life. If you've, go and have a look at my previous Substacks, I think I've talked about on here what a B+ life is. It's the easy place to settle. I had a B+ life. It was easy to sit in that settling space. But truly deep down in my heart, that was not my A+ life. Cancer was the bitch slap around the face that was like, girl, this is your opportunity. And I'm not sitting here saying I'm living my A+ life, but what I will say is that even the challenges I have, the things I'm working towards, I realize that it's come from a place of like choice. Like, I'm giving it a try. I am showing up, I'm trying. And this is partly what today's edit's a bit around, is being more vulnerable around beliefs and values and giving myself a talking to lean in more to those. And that, when, people who have this, you might be feeling a little bit in that B+ life, or, you might have had something, it doesn't have to be like a life-threatening illness, right? It can be something like, life happens. We don't, most people have something that comes along and rocks them to the core. And when that happens, what are you going to do? If you sit in this is my belief, if you sit in this is happening to you, you're being, it's a more fixed mindset and more closed vision. If you ask yourself, if this is happening for me, what is the opportunity? And that shift in mindset will help. And again, this is what I believe, this is very personal, is I think it helps the steps that you take, the risks that you'll take, the boundaries that you'll set, the showing up for yourself first over others, and how you honour your time and your life and where you invest your energy and who you invest your energy with. And if you also think about, if this is happening for you, perhaps this is something that is helping you get to where you actually want to be, or to help you fulfill a purpose. And the other thing that sits there as well is like, and this is maybe a little bit harder sometimes, and I've confessed, like, I struggle with a lot of, I'm reading my list of beliefs and I'm thinking there are days where I am I believe it, and there are days where I have to remind myself of it. So one of the things here is I believe that everyone is worthy of an A plus, the A plus life of their dreams. I believe I am worthy of that, but there are days where I don't believe I'm worthy of that, and that's where the tools that come in that help me be better at believing in that and believing in myself and helping myself show up, finding the courage to step into the things that I want to do. And then those are the tools, weirdly, that I'm then like, I'd love to share these and help people with. And, I'd love to spend my time supporting people. And if you are someone with that mindset of, this has happened. I think this has happened for me, but I don't know where to go. I feel like, or, it's that kind of, why is this called the Unstuck edit? Is because it's like, you can get yourself unstuck. Some of that's about shifting your mindsets first. There's also an getting to a place of, so acknowledgement that you're stuck, acceptance of it, or accepting what's happened in your life, and then working on the shift in the mindset. And, so one of the things I offer, so I'm a stylist, I've been a stylist for a long time, and it's been something that I've danced around, and I actually think I'm a pretty good stylist, to be frank. In terms of like, I'm able to see like people, what would work with them. I really support them with like figuring out who they are style wise. And the other thing I am absolutely amazing at is listening and being a good sounding board and playing things back and seeing the bigger picture. So when you talk about style and what's holding you back and so on and so forth, I am amazing at that. Why don't I promote just my styling stuff is because this is one of my other beliefs. Like, if you don't deal with what's going on the inside and you just focus in on the style or the window dressing or what's your makeup or your hair, yes, it can take you some way to feeling better about yourself. But if you don't deal with the inner stuff, the confidence just isn't there. You will plateau, you will reach a ceiling. And so that's why I've always played around, because I've been trying to figure out how to persuade people to come and do the inner work as well. This is a really interesting Unstuck edit, because actually I think it is it's been designed for me to have a talking to with myself around just being out there a bit more on my beliefs and my values, and hopefully one of the other things I do think, or I try to do, is go first. And that's something that maybe it's like a leadership and the kind of lioness aspect is, it's like, I'm in this space just now, come and join me. And then that kind of helps, and we move forward together. I'm not here to fix or anything. I'm here to empower. Like, what do I believe? It's like all of these tools, all of these things will empower people to take control of their own life. And yeah, it's interesting reading the list. The other thing that really drives me, so I don't have any children, and one of the things I think children can give you is you leave a legacy. You're leaving a mark on this world, because you're, part of you is here when you have passed on. And I don't have children, but I have a really strong desire to leave a legacy. And maybe that's like, the people I've helped, and when I've seen people move from feeling a bit stuck to having clarity on where they want to go, or like a real tangible example is my netball coaching, where you see people flourish and thrive, and then realize that they take these tools that, because it's not just technical skills, and they apply it to their life. And it's all about confidence, right? And belief in yourself. And a good place to start for that is figuring out your values. What do you believe in? If you've got your own business, what's your why? Or maybe it's your hobbies, like, or just your why in general. Like, why do you do what you do? Why do you show up the way you do? Yeah, this has been a really good talking to myself. Fuck playing it safe. We can do this, people. And One of the things I'm really bad at is selling. I'm just a bit like, do you know, where, and the more I do stuff, like, because I've got my human design certification, and I understand like why I am the way I am, and why I show up the way I show up a bit. I'm just a bit like, here's a bunch of information. I really hope you find it interesting and that I resonate with you. And, you know, when you're ready, come and work with me. So yeah, I'll leave you with that. This is Gail, ceremonialist, and it's guide, reinvention guide, body confidence guide, human design guide, style guide, netball guide, whatever, insert in. I am multi-passionate, and that's the other thing as well, is like you might have lots of different things you're interested in, and be you, be your unique you, be your uncommon you, and you will shine. And if you need a hand figuring out who that is or how to move forward, give me a shout. Thank you for chumming me along on today's Unstuck edit and me having a good talking to myself. Thank you for holding space for me to be vulnerable and to share a belief and a value, or several beliefs and values that are really precious to me. So I'm grateful for you listening. Until the next episode, I'll see you all later. Thanks.